Today we are going to look at all the news and rumors that came of Raw last night. Be sure to like and subscribe. Number 6, is Drew McIntyre's WWE title reign in jeopardy next week on Raw? This week's episode of Raw opened with Sheamus and Keith Lee once again at odds despite Drew McIntyre's presence as the mediator. The clash of egos led to a number 1 contenders match and Keith Lee defeated Sheamus in a solid bout to secure a WWE Championship opportunity on Raw next week. It's an interesting matchup, but the WWE title picture may have gotten a lot more complicated than we imagine. Keith Lee vs. Drew McIntyre is a straightforward WWE title match. However, The Miz could be added to the mix again. At TLC, The Miz failed his Money in the Bank cash-in, but there was a major technicality in play that didn't come up until this episode of Raw. The Miz was unsuccessful against Gran Metalik in a singles match. While it seemed like he was going on a downward spiral, he was seen later on the stairs next to John Morrison, brooding over his luck. Adam Pearce came to them with the Money in the Bank briefcase. While he admitted that he would have liked to smack The Miz in the face with it, the previous point was brought up. John Morrison cashed in the MITB briefcase on The Miz's behalf, and that means that it didn't count. As a result, The Miz is now Mr. Money in the Bank again. Drew McIntyre's WWE title reign is in jeopardy and next week on Raw, he has a lot more than just Keith Lee to worry about. Don't be surprised to see The Miz unexpectedly emerge as the WWE Champion next week after nearly 10 years. It was 9 years ago when he last held the WWE title and 10 years ago since he last won it. Will he emerge as an unexpected transitional WWE Champion next week on Raw? Number 5, what lies ahead for AJ Styles on Raw? AJ Styles doesn't appear to be in the WWE title picture on Raw post-TLC. Instead, he had a confrontation with Elias and Jackson Ryker backstage. He faced and defeated Elias in a solid match. The way he was being presented, we couldn't help but feel that he might be transitioning into a babyface role on Raw. It was only hinted. While it was a heel versus heel match, which has become surprisingly common these days, AJ Styles was positioned as the face, and he could be quietly turning babyface after his heel run on Raw. Number 4, is Ricochet joining Retribution or not? Mustafa Ali defeated Ricochet in what was possibly the match of the night on Raw. As usual, the story was about getting Ricochet into Retribution, and after losing, Ali once again told him to join them. Ricochet teased joining at first but ended up backing out at the end. He stunned Ali to stand tall, but it's another week and another loss for Ricochet. Number 3, the WWE Women's Tag Team title contenders are crystal clear. Asuka and Charlotte Flair have been extremely busy since TLC after they won the Women's Tag Team Championships. On Raw last week, a few potential contenders emerged. On SmackDown, Asuka and Charlotte Flair defeated Bayley and Carmella as well as Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks to retain the titles. This week on Raw, Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose once again tried to emerge as potential contenders. Dana Brooke lost to Shayna Baszler, but only after an incredible sequence that highlighted how much she has improved in the ring. But it's clear, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are the next tag team title challengers on Raw. For all we know, they could win it back. Charlotte Flair faced Nia Jax in a grudge match, dating back to June 22, and it ended in a disqualification. Charlotte Flair and Asuka feels like a tag team that only exists to set up the Raw Women's Championship match at the Royal Rumble 2021. It will be interesting to see how it plays out. Number 2, Bobby Lashley has Jeff Hardy's number on Raw, but what does it mean for Riddle? The Hurt Business faced the New Day, Riddle, and Jeff Hardy in an 8-man tag team match on Raw. The pre-match segment was funny, with Riddle suggesting that they named themselves the Positively Hard Brothers. Naturally, the name didn't stick, and they went out and had a losing effort. The Hurt Business has too much momentum right now, and Bobby Lashley made Jeff Hardy submit to the Hurt Lock yet again. It's clear that Bobby Lashley has Jeff Hardy's number, but Riddle got the last laugh after attacking him. Riddle seems set for a United States title feud on Raw. Lashley is entering the Royal Rumble 2021 as well, so it will be interesting to see what follows. Will Riddle be able to dethrone Lashley, or is the CEO of the Hurt Business just too dominant on Raw? We imagined that Lashley would be a big favorite. It's been a resurgent 2020 for him after the debacle of a storyline with Lana. Number 1. What was the meaning behind the end of Raw? The highlight of Raw was undoubtedly the Alexa Bliss-Randy Orton interaction. While the Orton-Bray Wyatt feud on Raw was underwhelming without Alexa Bliss, she proved just how big of a difference maker she is. She appeared on the playground again, and while Randy Orton was invited, his music played twice and he didn't show up. Instead, he appeared at the Firefly Funhouse and destroyed the supporting cast. Alexa Bliss invited him later on Raw to step in the ring with her, indicating that she wanted to compete. It took up the last 10 minutes of Raw, but what happened was shocking. Alexa Bliss gifted Randy Orton a case of fuel, the same thing he used to set the Fiend on fire. She demanded that she do the same to him and poured the fuel onto the ring and even handed the matchbox. When Randy Orton still wasn't obliging her request, she doused herself with the fuel and was expected to be set on fire. Randy Orton was about to do it, but the lights went out and Raw ended abruptly. This was as big a cliffhanger as you would see, and we feel it's better than the Lashley-Lana wedding that concluded 2019, although we can't dispute the high rating it received. We're not sure what to make of it, but it doesn't appear as though Alexa Bliss was set on fire. As for when The Fiend will return, next week could be the right time for him to make a comeback in his new look, but it took a whole new interesting turn.